But he seemed so friendly, I burst out. Not threatening at all. A muscle in Mr. Ambrose's jaw twitched. Of course he did. He never threatens. He never strikes. He never says a word against the laws of England. And yet, wherever he goes, things happen. A wink from him means ruin. A twitch of his fingers means death. When he nods, wise men turn and run. He nodded when he met you. I've never claimed to be wise. There was a spell of silence, that complete silence that I only ever felt in the presence of Mr. Ambrose. Shivering, I remembered Lord Dalglish's friendly, harmless expression, back in the ballroom. Could anyone really be that good an actor? I still can't really believe, I began. I didn't get any further. In a flash, Mr. Ambrose was up and around his desk. Before I could move, he had grabbed me by the shoulders and hauled me out of my chair. Forcefully, I was thrust against the wall of the office, cold stone pressing against my back. Believe, he hissed. Believe anything and everything where Dalglish is concerned. He's the man who invented the word ruthless. If you get in his way, he will step on you and crush you like an insect. His dark, sea-colored eyes were burning into me with deadly intensity. Slowly, the grip of his right hand loosened and left my shoulder. He raised it, almost unconsciously it seemed, until it touched my cheek. Stay away from him. His hand fell. Yes, a voice inside me screamed. Yes, I will. I'll do anything. Just touch my cheek again. And maybe lean a little closer. My inner feminist slammed shut the door on that voice. You can't make me do anything, I whispered. Why the heck did I whisper? My voice should be strong and independent. It's those darn eyes of his. They're sapping the strength out of you, making you feel all gooey and weak-kneed. No man should be allowed to have eyes like that. I can, he bit out. Stay away from him. That is an order, Mr. Linton. I opened my mouth to argue, not because I really wanted to go near Dalglish. I mean, I'm not completely nuts, but because I refuse on principle to be ordered around by a man after working hours. But when Mr. Ambrose's head moved forward, the words caught in my throat. What was he doing? Why was he moving so close to me? He was just inches away. He couldn't possibly. Could he? For just one moment, it looked as though he was going to kiss me. Then the moment passed, and he halted, his perfect granite face only a fraction of an inch away from mine. His hard body pressed into mine, a living threat, ready to deliver. His eyes narrowed infinitesimally, challenging me to dare and speak the words that were on my tongue. I swallowed. Memories flooded my mind, memories of him pressed against me, just like that, only back then, he had taken the plunge, and closed the last bit of distance that separated us. Today, he was in control, of himself and me. The hand that still gripped my shoulder, pressing me into the wall, was steady as rock. But how long would he hold out? How long would he be able to refrain from reliving our memories? They're not memories, I told myself, fiercely. You imagined it. You imagined it all. You did not let yourself be kissed by Mr. Ambrose. And you most certainly did not enjoy it more than you ever enjoyed anything else in your life, understood? Will you stay away from him? Mr. Ambrose demanded. His breath tickled my skin as he spoke, momentarily robbing me of the strength to answer. Why yes, I managed. He gave a curt nod. Adequate. But, I hurriedly tacked on, not because you said so. I'll stay away because I, as an independent, strong woman independently decided, on my own, to stay away from him. He cocked his head as if to say, as long as you do what I say, why do you think I care about the why? I glowered at him. He ignored me. Let me go, I demanded. He still ignored me. Taking a deep breath, he leant forward just a little more. The sensation that hit me was shocking. Not his lips, no, they were much softer than this. It was his forehead, resting against mine. I could feel a few wild strands of my hair tickling his forehead, and... my God, he really was hard-headed, in the literal sense of the word, and bloody heavy. It was downright uncomfortable. Really, if it's so uncomfortable, why don't you want him to pull away? His eyes bored into mine. Swear, he demanded. Swear to me you'll stay away from him. Swear, not promise, not pledge, swear. And I had a feeling that an oath sworn to Mr. Rickard Ambrose had better not be broken. So I quickly crossed my fingers behind my back, just in case. I swear. And suddenly he was gone. I swayed for a moment, used to the press of his body into mine. He was standing 3 feet away, standing tall and forbidding, as if we hadn't just been pressed more tightly together than two flounders in a printing press. Quite sensible of you, Mr. Linton. Sensible, sensible. I didn't feel very sensible right now, or reasonable, or cautious, or prudent, for that matter. I sucked in a deep breath, my eyes still fixed on Mr. Ambrose, fumbling for something to say. Something that wasn't come back here. I wasn't finished with you. But it doesn't make any sense. Finally, some words had managed to find their way out of my mouth. And they sounded angry, not breathless. Good. Indeed, Mr. Ambrose regarded me coolly. What are you referring to, exactly, Mr. Linton? Lord Dalglish. Why would I have to try and stay away from him? What does he want from me? For some reason, at the ball he was determined to find out your reason for dancing with me. But it was just one dance. Why would he be interested in that? I mean, what's one dance? He has been trying to find a weak spot in my armor for years now, Mr. Linton. If he had reason to believe that I had formed a romantic attachment to someone, this would give him the hold over me he has always desired. But, why would he think that, after just one dance? There was a pause. Then he said, in voice so low I hardly caught it, I don't dance, Mr. Linton. My heart made a jump. Not ever. No, it's a waste of time. But you danced with me. Yes, a muscle in his jaw twitched. Apparently, that one dance was enough to convince Dalglish that I might have formed a romantic attachment to you. Abruptly, he turned and strode back to his desk. Ridiculous, of course, but there you are. Unconsciously, my hands closed into fists. Ridiculous, is it? Oh, I said pointedly, so he thought I was the center of your world. He froze halfway to his desk. Slowly turning back towards me, he met my eyes with his own. The dark force took my breath away. Probably. What is it? Why was my voice so low and breathy all of a sudden? What is the center of the world for you? I'll tell you what it is not, Mr. Linton. It most certainly not a girl. Why this odd tugging sensation in my chest? Had I ever expected the center of Mr. Ambrose's world to be anything emotional? I asked what it is, I told him, forcing my voice to be firm. Not what it is not. I know. So are you going to tell me? No. But. He cut me off with a jerk of his hand. You, he said, are not in here to question me. You were in here to answer my questions. You have done so. You can leave, now. But. That is an order, Mr. Linton. Slowly, I got to my feet and walked away. At the door, I turned to look over my shoulder a last time. He was sitting there at the desk, with that unfathomable lack of expression on his face that belongs solely to him. The world is a heavy thing to bear, I told him, whether at the center or elsewhere. Why won't you let someone help you? Without waiting for a reply, I turned, leaving him behind. Asterisk tilde asterisk tilde asterisk asterisk tilde asterisk tilde asterisk. The longer the day stretched, the more fantastic my imaginings became. In my mind, the center of the world became the name of a priceless diamond, an heirloom of the noble house Mr. Ambrose was a member of, though he refused to acknowledge it. A moment later, it turned into the title of an ancient script that revealed the lost location of Atlantis. In the next moment, it turned into Buckingham Palace, center of the British Empire and home of its queen, and maybe a plan to prevent her assassination. Though, in the latter case, I couldn't see Mr. Ambrose risking his own life willingly. Not unless there was a healthy reward involved, or unless he had a secret affair with the queen, and she was the writer of the pink letters. It was probably better that, at this point, another plink from a tube message distracted me from my own thoughts. I wasn't far away from imagining the missing file to contain a magical portal to Sleeping Beauty's castle. Or, more likely, to the seventh circle of hell. The hours flew by as I worked ceaselessly, and thought ceaselessly, always asking, what will happen? What will he do? What is the center of the world? I didn't find any answers. The hours grew longer and turned into days. The closer the deadline came, the more insane became Mr. Ambrose's idea of an appropriate workload. Working seemed to be his way of dealing with anxiety, if he truly was anxious. He seemed just as cool and collected as ever. Maybe it was simply his way of earning more money. Maybe. On the last day before the great day, I sat at my desk and gazed out through the window over the city of London. The sun was just sinking beyond the horizon, flooding the city with blood-red light, half obscured by the black smoke that rose from thousands of chimneys. It seemed like an omen to me. Darkness and blood. Quickly, I rose from my chair and went to Mr. Ambrose's door. He hadn't called for a new file yet. In fact, he'd been suspiciously undemanding the last few minutes, but I knew he was still in there. If he had left, I would have heard the keys in the lock. After a second of hesitation, I raised my hand and knocked. Mr. Ambrose. No answer. Mr. Ambrose, I know you're still in there. Silence. Mr. Ambrose, sir, please, open up. I want to talk to you again. Maybe I can convince you. If you'd let me help you. I heard a plink from my desk. Turning, I saw another message had arrived. Carefully, I opened the container and read. No, go. Tomorrow, you can remain at home. I will not require your services. Tomorrow, when he would put his plan into action and move against Dalgleish. I knocked again. Mr. Ambrose, please. Silence. A tomb full of silence. Well, if he wanted to ignore me, fine. He wasn't the only one who had secret plans for tomorrow. Trapped. I woke up and thought, the day has come. Today Mr. Ambrose would go to number 97 East India Dock Road, and an excited shiver went through me. I didn't really know what exactly he was going to do, but I didn't think it would be very legal. It'll be exciting, though. Oh yes, it definitely would be exciting. And I was supposed to stay home like a proper little lady and do nothing. My hands gripped the sheets tightly, balling into fists. Quickly, I looked around. It was still very early in the morning, probably around 6 a.m. The sun was just starting to peek over the roofs of the houses, outside. Its rays fell on Ella, who lay in her bed, sound asleep, with a smile on her face. Even in my current mood, I wasn't totally unaffected by my little sister's happy smile. But it could not soothe me for long. My thoughts returned to him all too soon. How dare he exclude me? Hadn't I proved my worth, earned the right to have his respect? It was I who had discovered Dalglish's base, after all. Admittedly, I had done it while I was as drunk as a lord, and rather accidentally, but still, I had done it. He owed it to me to take me along on this. When I thought of him, facing a host of heavily armed soldiers alone, delving into the dark to recover the mysterious file that was so all-important for reasons which I still did not understand, I wanted to scream in frustration. Of course I didn't, because it would have woken Ella up. Instead, I punched my pillow, again wishing it had a greater resemblance to Mr. Ambrose's head. I won't allow him to do this. Suddenly, having decided what I was going to do, I slid out of bed and towards the window. I didn't bother putting on my dress. Once I reached the shed, I was going to exchange it for trousers and a shirt in any case. If somebody saw me running through the garden in my pink lace nightgown with little embroidered songbirds, I would just have to murder that person before they could spread the word. I had never dressed that fast in my entire life. 5 minutes later, I was striding down the street, on my way to Empire House. There probably was no reason to hurry. If Mr. Ambrose had any sense in that hard head of his, he wouldn't take action until nightfall. Still, the early worm catches the bird, or however the saying goes. When I reached Empire House about a quarter of an hour later, I saw that arriving early had been a good idea. A familiar chaise, drawn by a shabby beast of a grey horse, was standing in front of the main entrance. Knowing that I would have to get past the grey monster, I approached carefully. It eyed me, with what I could only suppose was a mix of interest and appetite. I raised a cautioning finger. If you bite me, I'll bite back, I told him. Nobody would be able to say I didn't warn him. The horse snorted and turned its head away derisively. Quickly, I stole past the beast and into the main hall. It was completely deserted. Nobody was in sight. The gigantic man-made cave of Mammon was as silent as its master. My steps echoed from the wall as I hurried across the floor and towards the steps, wondering why he was going this early. Did he still have preparations to make? Maybe he simply wants to avoid you. Isn't that nice? On reaching the upper landing, I heard familiar voices from the hallway. One was especially familiar. Quicker, Kareem, we have places to be. Yes, Sahib. And double-check everything. Cool, check. Distant, check. Forbidding and reserved, check. Now, who could this possibly be? Carefully, I peeked around the corner and there he stood, Mr. Rickard Ambrose, a motionless figure in white and black, overseeing Kareem, who was packing a few scrolls of paper into a bag. They looked like maps to me, all ground plans. The main entrance. Soldiers will be stationed there. Yes, Sahib. Mr. Ambrose stood more like an ancient Greek statue than ever, his body now as motionless as his face, his figure erect, his eyes distant, as if looking at something 3,000 years away. Well, it was high time to startle some life into him. I stepped out into the hall. Hello, everybody. Mr. Ambrose jumped in a most unstatue-like way. He whirled around, and his hand was already on its way to grip his sword cane when his eyes fell on me. You. Yes, I marched forward and stopped only a few feet away from him, my fists on my hips. What did you think? That I was going to stay home and miss all the fun? It was probably too much to expect sensible behavior from you, for once. His eyes flashed, darkly. I certainly didn't expect you to be here this early. Ha, I knew it. He had known I would show up, but had hoped to be gone before I did so. Well, I'm a morning person, I told him with a bright, fake smile. I told you to stay away. Yes, well, I ignored you. I can see that. He took a step closer, bending forward a little. I am displeased, Mr. Linton, to put it mildly. Leave, now. No. Mr. Linton. He took another step closer. His eyes grew darker and stormier the closer he got. I am going to do something I have never done to an employee in my entire life. Slowly, he bent forward, fixing me with his cold, sea-colored gazes. I'm giving you the day off. Go. No. Didn't you hear me? You have a holiday in front of you. Enjoy it. It'll be the last you'll get out of me for the next 500 years. You can take your holiday and stick it where the sun doesn't shine. I'm coming with you. You work for me. You have to obey me. I raised my chin, meeting his gaze without blinking. If you give me the day off, that means today I don't work for you, and I can do as I wish. And I wish to accompany you. Gesturing to Kareem. I can't let you walk into danger with only him around for protection. The Mohammedan's eyes bulged, and I fancy he would have said something pretty explicit, had not Mr. Ambrose spoken first. And what, he asked, his voice as cold as the North Pole, makes you think I am going to let you accompany us? Oh, you probably won't. I shrugged, but I can hire a cab and follow you. It's as simple as that. I see. For a few moments, Mr. Ambrose regarded me in silence. Then, all right, you have won, Mr. Linton. You can come. I wasn't sure whether I'd heard correctly. Excuse me. I said, you can come. I am not fond of repeating myself, Mr. Linton. My mouth popped open. I was expecting you to fight me on this for about 100 years. He shrugged. I know when to yield to superior forces. You have convinced me, Mr. Linton. You should be there. You were right from the beginning. I need you. What? Kareem demanded. Sahib, you cannot be serious. She cannot. Silence, Kareem. Mr. Ambrose cut him off. You will speak when I say so, and not before. The mountainous man closed his mouth, his eyes burning with anger. As I said, Mr. Ambrose repeated, you should be there. You have a right to. Well, thank you. I'm glad you've finally seen sense. A timid smile broke over my face. At last, he was starting to be sensible. He was starting to accept me. Shall we go, then? Soon, Mr. Ambrose said, looking out of the window, his face as immovable as ever. I just need one last thing. I think I've forgotten to take one of the ground plans I need. It's on the desk in my office. Would you get it for me, please? Of course, sir. Quickly, I ran past him and into his office. If he was going to take me along, I would do anything. In my mind, I was already picturing the sinister silhouette of the villain's lair. My first ever real villain's lair. My first adventure. I had thought that the visit to the polling station was my first adventure, but compared to this, it was nothing. I would be entering a new world. A world of mystery, money, power and strife that most people didn't even catch a glimpse of. I was so excited, that I almost didn't catch the click behind me. Almost. I whirled around, just in time to see the door to the office close. Asterisk tilde asterisk tilde asterisk asterisk tilde asterisk tilde asterisk. Would it surprise anybody to hear that there was no ground plan on the desk in Mr. Ambrose's office? No, I didn't think so. Let me out, curse you. My hand already hurt from hammering against the door. It was useless. The door was firmly locked, just as was the connecting door to my own office. He must have directed Kareem to lock it while he was doing the same with the other. Damn him. Let me out, or I will break this door down. Don't excite yourself, Mr. Linton, came a cool voice from the other side of the door. The door is oak, reinforced with steel. It won't break, and don't bother calling for help, either. Nobody is here, and even when the other employees arrive, it won't be any use to call out. I sent Mr. Stone to Newcastle on a matter of business. The hallway will be empty. Everybody else will be out of hearing range. This building has thick walls. I heard him turning away from the door. Come, Kareem, we still have to collect the necessary supplies and scout the area one final time before the operation can begin. Yes, Sahib. Kareem's voice dripped self-satisfaction. I wanted to pull his beard out hair by hair and throttle him, and then bash in his employer's head. Unfortunately, the door was in the way. Mr. Ambrose, let me out. In answer, I heard only silence. Silence, and the sound of footsteps retreating down the hallway. Then those were gone, too. I beat against the door, again and again, not because I thought I would be able to break it, but simply to vent my anger. Anger at him, and at myself. How could I have been so stupid? Of course he didn't want to let me come along. Of course he had a hidden trap laid for me. This was Rickard Ambrose we were talking about. And I had forgotten that fact, and walked right into his trap. Maybe I didn't deserve to come along on the great adventure. Maybe I deserved to stew here, in this office, like an old piece of beef in an old pot the cook forgot to take off the fire. I felt appropriately disgusted with myself. When my hands hurt so badly I could hardly feel them anymore, I stopped torturing the office door. Instead, I looked around, desperate for a way to get out. But there was nothing. The office was just as bare as I remembered, with no possibilities of. Wait a second. In the farthest corner, there was a niche I hadn't noticed before. Quickly, I crossed the room to see what it contained, and found myself in front of a door. My heart made a leap. Could it be? Could my escape be so easy? I reached for the doorknob. My fingers clasped the cool metal, turned it, and the door was locked. Blast, blast, blast. Of course, my escape couldn't be that easy. Turning around, my gaze drifted to the windows. They, too, appeared to be firmly shut and locked. I could break the glass, of course, but what would that gain me? If I shouted from the top floor to people in the street that one of London's richest financiers was keeping me prisoner in his office, this surely would bring the police down on me. I would be lucky if I ever got away, let alone in time to join Mr. Ambrose in his illegal endeavor. Yes, but it would make a nice, juicy scandal and annoy the hell out of him, wouldn't it? True, but in my heart of hearts, I knew the problem was I didn't want to annoy him. I wanted to help him. Blast. Resigned, I dragged my feet over to Mr. Ambrose's desk and slumped into his chair. Not even the thought of what he might say, were he to know I was sitting in the chair reserved for the master of the house, could improve my mood right now. I sat there, in endless anxiety, horrible images flitting through my head the entire time. Mr. Ambrose faced by a platoon of the presidency armies, Mr. Ambrose being led after a firing squad. The thought sent a shock of pain through my heart. But why? Why did I feel pain? For the future I might lose if he died. My job. No, this pain was not for me. It was for him. Maybe I didn't detest him quite as much as I had always imagined. This is getting you nowhere, you lazy idiot. Think of something. My fist came down on the desk, hard. Curse him and his chauvinistic ways. How dare he go without taking me with him? Hadn't I earned the right to be a part of his life, to go where he went and support him in what he did? And he left me behind simply because I was no man. But then, whispered a nasty little voice in my head, maybe, if you were a man, you might not want to go with him so badly. Angrily, I sprang up and marched over to the window. The sun had risen by now. I could see people coming down the street. It wasn't difficult to pick out the ones who were heading to work at Mr. Ambrose's. They were the ones running like scared rabbits. Suddenly, it occurred to me that some of those people might know me from sight. If I smashed the window, and called out to someone who worked here, telling them that I had locked myself in and couldn't find my keys. Even before the thought was finished thinking, I started pounding on the glass. If I had managed to break it, I would probably have cut my hands to ribbons. Yet the glass held firm, no matter how hard I pounded it. Of course it did. This was Mr. Ambrose's office. His walls were hard, his chairs were hard, his head was hard. Why shouldn't his windows be hard, too? Plus, they were next to his archive and safe. Whatever these windows were made of, I would not be able to break them, not even with a hammer. I went back to the chair of the man who had locked me in here and sat down again. A humorless smile spread on my face. My entire life I had been afraid of being trapped by a man. Most of my imaginings had contained such gruesome horrors as engagements, wedding bells and a honeymoon in the south of France followed by a slow death by domesticity. Never had I imagined being literally trapped by a man, in a room, high up in London's largest monument to Mammon. And, also, unlike in my imaginings, where the man himself would have been my prison and I would have wanted nothing more than to get away from him, now the room was my prison and I wished nothing more than for the man to be with me, or for me to be with him. But not because I felt anything for him, of course. I was a strong, independent woman and would never have any sort of silly, soppy feelings for any man, least of all Rickard Ambrose. My eyes slid shut, trying to keep the tears in. Well, I just wished I were with him. That was all. If only there were a way to have someone come and open a door. Slowly, my eyes opened again, and fell on the pneumatic tube with the basket of message papers right beside it. Slowly, as if I feared they might run away should I approach them too quickly, I stretched my hands out in the direction of quill and paper. My fingers were only a few inches away from the pen, my way to freedom. It didn't seem to want to make a run for it. My fingers closed. Yes, a way to get out. A way to get to him. But one thing after another. Putting one of the little squares of message paper right in front of me, I dipped the quill into the ink. For a moment, the quill hovered hesitantly over the paper. I thought of the pale man who staffed the desk downstairs. What was Sallowface's name again? Mr. Ambrose had mentioned it to me once, not appreciating the accuracy of the nickname I had come up with. Ah yes, Pearson. Quickly, I wrote in my best imitation of Mr. Ambrose's neat, precise handwriting. Dear Mr. Pearson. Be so kind as to bring me a list of all last week's visitors, which I require for a project I am currently working on. I may not be in my office when you arrive. If that is the case, unlock the door and leave the list on my desk. Thank you. Yours sincerely, Rickard Ambrose. For a long moment, I stared down at what I had written. Then I crossed it out, grabbed another piece of paper and wrote. Mr. Pearson. Deposit a list of last week's visitors on my desk immediately. Rickard Ambrose. There, I murmured, much more realistic. My heart fluttering excitedly, I put the message into its metal container, shoved it into the tube and then examined the control board right beside it. This one was much more complicated than the one in my office, with innumerable dials, levers and buttons to reach every part of the vast complex which served Mr. Ambrose as his headquarters. I selected a lever labeled EH, and hoped fervently it stood for entry hall, and not excrement hatch. Why did men have to make all technical devices so infernally complicated? With bated breath, I sat and hoped for a result from my wild plan. Only 2 minutes later, hurried footsteps approached from outside. Very hurried footsteps. A grin spread over my face. Yes, my plan had worked. Whoever was coming did indeed believe the message to originate from Mr. Ambrose. It didn't take the runner long to reach the office door. He tried to turn the doorknob and, finding the door locked, hesitated. A moment later, I heard the sound of salvation, the jingling of keys. The lock made a clicking sound, and the door swung open, revealing sallow face, standing in the doorframe. Mr. Ambrose, he began, holding up a sheet of paper. I have your. Then he noticed that the figure he was facing had little resemblance to his master. Mr. Linton. Mr. Pearson. My smile widened into a joyous grin. You don't know how glad I am to see you. Mr. Linton, the pale bureaucrat managed, obviously having to struggle hard in order to contain his tumultuous emotions. Why, pray, are you sitting in Mr. Ambrose's private chair? Oh, looking down, I saw he was absolutely right. I had completely forgotten that I was reposing on my employer's official chair with my feet propped up on his desk, something that secretaries were probably not supposed to do. Well, I just thought I'd give it a try, you know. I wiggled my behind for emphasis, to see it if is comfy or not. Sallow Face's features turned a little more yellow, which seemed to be his version of getting angry red blotches on the cheeks. It is no concern of yours how comfy this honored seat is, Mr. Linton, he informed me, glaring at me as if I had sat on a king's throne and committed high treason. You shall never have another chance to sit there. Where is Mr. Ambrose? Oh, he is in the safe, checking something, I lied, and, when Sallowface turned in the direction of the safe, hurriedly added, and he doesn't want to be disturbed. I see. Sallowface turned back to me. I, by now, had risen from my traitorous position on Mr. Ambrose's throne and was thus not quite as fiercely glared at as before. Mr. Linton, Mr. Ambrose told me to bring him this. He held out the list of visitors. Should I wait here for him, or, leave it with me, I told him. I'll see that he gets it. He narrowed his eyes mistrustfully. On your honor as a gentleman. This is very important business material. Mr. Ambrose trusts me with the most important tasks of all his employees. He told me himself that he needs this information as soon as may be. Of course, I replied, trying my best to keep a straight face. I swear on my honor as a gentleman that he shall receive it as soon as possible. Very well, then, Mr. Linton. Here, I shall trust you with this important document. Do not fail me, or Mr. Ambrose. I shall not. He nodded stiffly. Until later, Mr. Linton. Yes, until later, Mr. Pearson. And. Yes. Leave the door open behind you, will you? Asterisk tilde asterisk tilde asterisk asterisk tilde asterisk tilde asterisk. 5 minutes later I was out on the street, hailing the nearest cab. The very important business information Mr. Pearson had delivered was crumpled up in the waste paper basket in Mr. Ambrose's office. A cab drove up beside me, and at exactly the right time. Just as I climbed in, I saw Mr. Ambrose's chaise approach from the West End. Whatever arrangements he'd had to make before embarking on his secret mission lay in the opposite direction from his destination in the East End. Quickly, I ducked out of sight, peeking over the top of the cab's window frame. From this hidden post I watched, while the cabbie regarded my antics with interest. There he was. Kareem was driving, and Mr. Ambrose, his face colder and more distant than ever, was sitting straight as a rod, 2 large bags and a small chest beside him. Follow that chaise, I hissed at the cabbie, without resurfacing from my hidden position. Are ye from Scotland Yard, Gov? Yes, I said boldly. This is a criminal investigation of the highest level. The fate of the British Empire, maybe even the world, is at stake. Blimey, the cabbie seemed very impressed. Well, we'd better be going then, ain't we? I was in hearty agreement. The cabbie was about to spur on his horses, when my hand shot up. Stop, don't. I had just remembered something. Of course, don't follow them. I've changed my mind. The cabbie's face fell. No chase, Gov. I smiled. Only because I already know where they are going. Asterisk tilde asterisk tilde asterisk asterisk tilde asterisk tilde asterisk on the entire way to number 97, East India Dock Road, the cabbie mumbled and complained. Apparently, he had read enough about the adventures of Scotland Yard detectives to know that this was not how things were done. Detectives of Scotland Yard were supposed to chase after their prey in an exciting race, not leisurely drive to wherever it was their prey was going because they already knew the place. Such a thing was apparently simply not done. On arrival in East India Dock Road, still some distance away from number 97, I paid him with the last money I had left over from pawning my uncle's walking stick and got out of the cab, promising myself again to retrieve the stick with my very first earned money. Well, maybe after I had bought a really big piece of solid chocolate. A girl has to have her treats in life. The cabbie took the money and looked around curiously. This is where you wanted to go, Gov. But there ain't nothing close to, except the docks. I winked at him, in what I hoped was a mysterious manner. Exactly.